You're watching KC Sports Talk with Sergeant King, 6.5 miles southeast of the Kansas City Airport in the northernmost part of Kansas City. Probably haven't done a video in about 6 weeks. I just hadn't been wanting to make any videos. But with the current state of the Kansas City Chiefs, especially with now being led under center with Tyler Palko and having a day off on a Friday, could not help myself. So the first thing I want to do is go into what I've wanted to talk about. We're going to talk a little Scott Pioli, give you my evaluation on him. Should Todd Haley be fired? Should Tyler Palko be starting this weekend? But first, what have we learned about Tyler Palko? Well, I'm going to tell you what you could have learned, or what I learned about Tyler Palko before the Chiefs started the season. All right, and that was at training camp. All right, when you go up there and you're watching them work out with Ricky Stanzi, Matt Castle, and Tyler Palko, not a lot to pick from there. But Tyler Palko is basically a left-hander that has a somewhat stiff, awkward motion, like it's hard for him to throw fluidly. It's just his natural delivery, and it's not very fluid. And it also, he probably cannot throw a football 40 miles an hour. For example, last year at the NFL Combine, I think the top velocity on a football was 51 miles per hour by Colin Kaepernick. Cam Newton threw at 50, if I'm not mistaken. Tyler Palko has no arm strength at all. Tim Tebow probably has a strong arm compared to Tyler Palko. But even before really getting a look at Tyler Palko, what do you think Scott Pioli knew about Tyler Palko before he signed him to a contract? Well, let's take a look. He probably knew that besides any video that he watched of him, okay, and saw the same thing that I saw, he probably knew that he was undrafted out of college and was put on the practice squad by the Saints in 2007, was injured in 2008, and he was cut, okay, by the Saints. And he didn't play football in 2008. He was picked up by the Cardinals, but he was cut before the end of training camp. Then the mighty California Redwoods of the United Football League signed Tyler Palko, but he was cut during preseason. All right, the Montreal Alouettes picked him up, all right, and he was cut. Okay, he was on the practice roster. So, who in the right mind would sign a player, especially a quarterback, that can't even make it on the field in the UFL or the CFL? All right. Pittsburgh Steelers picked him up because he was available, never hit the field. Ben Roethlisberger was hurt, so was Charlie Batch. And but then like 2 weeks later he was cut once those guys were ready to roll. Okay, so this Sunday going into the game, a lot of folks are wondering, because Todd Haley's saying that Tyler Palko is going to be the starter. He's getting 60% of the reps, and Kyle Orton's getting 40% of the reps. Now, why would Haley say this? The only reason I could see Todd Haley, an NFL head coach, say this is to play some mind game with the Steelers, with the Bears for this weekend, getting them prepping for two quarterbacks or whatever, and then starting Norton, of course, because if Todd Haley was worried about Tyler Palko's feelings, or what does that say when you bring a guy in just a couple weeks of not even 2 weeks of work, and you make him the starter over this guy? What's that say to Palko? Well, here's what I would say to Palko. You don't belong in the NFL anyway, so just be glad you're getting a paycheck at least for a couple more weeks. All right. Because if Todd Haley did think that Palko was a relevant factor and could play well, or if he wanted to see what Tyler Palko's really has, if he can really do something in this league, if he doesn't know it by now, then I question whether or not Todd Haley is drinking heavy, or if he should not be a head coach. So I'll move on to the next topic. Should Todd Haley be fired? if his philosophy is that if what he's seen is, no, I know Tyler Palko doesn't belong in the NFL, then I'm good. And I don't think Todd Haley should be fired. All right, he's been dealt a bad hand this year, all right, with injuries, with the amount of money that the Chiefs are under the cap for the basically lack of a quality product on the field. Then I know that that he's been given a raw deal. People could be trying to call me right now, and usually I'm answering my phone, but I'll call him back here in a few. Now, Todd Haley, the players like to play for him. I liked at training camp both for the past 2 years, the really flow, the management. What I'm seeing in Todd Haley as the leader and manager during practices. I hate to say anything other than I think he's a doable. He's a very capable head coach. So I'm just going to move on to Pioli. There lies the issue with the Chiefs right now and their player personnel. But let's back up to, it was back in the winter of 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, winter 2008 when Scott Pioli signed with the Chiefs. A lot of people thought, oh, we're getting the general manager, or they call it the player personnel president or whatever, the guy who signed all the people from the Patriots. And a lot of people bought that. And I would hope that a lot more people realize that he wasn't in charge of anything as far as decision making and player personnel when he was at New England. All right, he was an assistant to Bill Belichick, nothing else. Okay, if they were at a restaurant and Bill Belichick said, hey, or if they were going to a restaurant and Scott Pioli said, I'd like to go to Denny's, and Bill Belichick said, no, I'd like to go to JoJo's. They're going to JoJo's, all right? If Scott Pioli said, we need a receiver, I'd like to sign Johnson, he'd be like, no, we're signing Jeffries. They sign in Jeffries, okay? Bill Belichick had final say on every action. So don't be, if you're kind of wondering how Scott Pioli went from New England to Kansas City and how everything got all bad personnel player-wise, or actually is at this state right now. Well, his first move was to take a quarterback. Okay, his first move as a Chiefs general manager, basically, besides firing a head coach, was player personnel-wise, was to bring a quarterback to be the starter who had never started in a national football, or the first quarterback to never start in college, but to start in a National Football League game in Matt Castle. All right, so and it's been downhill from there. They're $18.5 million under the salary cap. Okay, somebody at One Arrowhead Drive is cheap. All right, it's either Lamar Hunt or Clark Hunt. Okay, but Scott Pioli is the one signing the players. All right, so if it's not, if they've got the deal to where Clark Hunt saying, hey, I'm going to let you spend this much money. Well, he took the job, and he's not doing a very good job at getting decent players. Look at our offensive line. Look at the running on the left side of the line. You got Brandon Albert, and then when you got runs on the right side of the line, the stats, the first downs, the runs for negative yards are lopsided. We've got a makeshift right tackle in Barry Richardson, for example. Tight end, we have an injury-prone tight end that we drafted out of college, but we have no suitable backup, no even somewhat athletic backup. Okay, the one strength on our offense is our three receivers, but you don't have a quarterback that can deliver the football to them. Okay, so that's pretty on Scott Pioli. All I can say is disaster. All right, that's going to do it. I'm all wrapped up. And nothing else going on. I'm going to go ahead and return my phone calls. I'll try to post this to YouTube. I'm out.